That wasn't the only thing that Barr has been up to recently. Attorney General William Barr also has floated the possibility, apparently in private, of locking up Democratic politicians that he doesn't like. On a call with federal prosecutors last week, Barr told officials to consider charges against Seattle's mayor for allowing a police-free zone in the city and to weigh charging violent protesters with sedition, according to the Dow Jones and the New York Times. Sedition, okay? Seattle's mayor Jenny Durkan said the statements were an act of tyranny, not of democracy. Now, what I found most interesting about this is not just that the chief law enforcement officer for our entire country is saying, yeah, that mayor might have to be locked up. And if you go to a BLM protest, you might face charges of treason effectively. It's that he said all of this on the same day, apparently, that news broke that he also criticized what he called the criminalization of politics, railing against television pundits for speculating on whether an official's deeds constitute some esoteric crime. He said, now you have to call your adversary a criminal. And instead of beating them politically, you try to put them in jail, saying that the US was becoming akin to an Eastern European country. What administration exactly is he a part of that he thinks the other side is criminalizing politics? And by the way, he might be locking up the mayor of Seattle too. So balance those two things, stuff those both in your head and see if they work out. For some right wingers, apparently it's okay.
Yeah, this administration ended up being far worse than even I expected, and I knew it was gonna be bad. What we're seeing is our entire democratic system getting dismantled by one administration, our actual civil liberties and freedoms deteriorating. And at the same time, there is this well-funded, well-organized group of right-wing media pundits who are basically controlling the narrative of everything that's going on. I mean, it's incredible how people can experience their own loved ones die during this pandemic. They can see their own material conditions deteriorate. They can see how this Trump administration has been brutal to their standard of life, their quality of life. But all you need is a well-organized propaganda machine on the right to really control the narrative and somehow pin the blame on people who have no power. That's the thing that really blows my mind. The people who, whether it's politicians on the left or left-wing voters, they have no power right now. And yet somehow the right-wing propaganda machine is incredibly effective in convincing Republican voters that, their lives are being destroyed by powerless people. It really is incredible.
100%. And I remember William Barr, and I'm not going to read all the other graphics, but he attacked BLM. He said that they're looking for props, and he said that the myth of police brutality is distracting from black on black crime. Just to give you an idea of what he thinks about non-white individuals, that sums it up pretty well. I remember during the confirmation hearings when we were talking about why he was being chosen and who he would be, and we knew then, and we know now. Like he is every German officer that stood happily next to Hitler and carried out his agenda. Like Trump is a monster. He's an absolute monster, but he needs other monsters to really get this work done. And Barr is that guy. Barr will happily serve alongside Trump. He could dissolve the Senate. He could. There's no line that Barr is not going to support. Barr is interested in power on the right, not democracy, not the Constitution, not law and order, literally nothing like that. And that was fairly obvious during the confirmation. So I want to once again congratulate Democrats Joe Manchin, Doug Jones, and Kristen Sinema for voting to confirm William Barr. Doug Jones saying he's qualified and will remain independent. Joe Manchin at least is consistent. He voted for Brett Kavanaugh and Jeff Sessions. Yeah, all of them signed on to this. Rand Paul, by the way, was the only Republican that voted against it. Actually, for once being consistent with the principles that he likes to pretend drive his politics.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the most devastating realizations that's come along with the Trump administration is just how many fascistic people exist in this country, both in the electorate, but also people who've had positions of power in the past, but were brought on again by Donald Trump to serve in his administration. People who are either too cowardly to speak up in an effort to protect our democratic process, or people who, absolutely agree with Trump's agenda and do want a brutal, tyrannical government running this country. It's a sizable portion of this country. It's just something to keep in mind. And this is why it's so important to, if you're on the left and you're hypersensitive about things and you need trigger warnings, you probably need a trigger warning for what I'm about to say. And I apologize if this offends you. We need to ensure that we don't allow sensitive feelings to override the importance of learning about our history and learning about our history accurately, okay? So if you're in some sort of history class and your professor reads texts that has words that you find offensive, please understand the context in which that professor is reading that material. Understand the importance of knowing what kind of language was used in the past. Because if we try to change the way we learn history, we're not gonna be able to learn from history. Do you get what I'm saying? And history will repeat itself. And I think we're seeing that right now. We need to refocus our energy on what the immediate threat is. And the immediate threat is not hurt feelings. It's what this administration is doing to essentially turn this country into something that's ruled by an authoritarian regime. Our democratic system is being dismantled right before us, right now. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how to effectively fight back because everything we've done so far has failed. But we have this election coming up, and I am not certain that the election is going to be carried out in any type of fair way. I'm not certain that Donald Trump will step down if he loses the election. At this point, I'm not even sure Biden would beat Trump fair and square because of how poorly he's running his campaign. We're in a pretty devastating place in America right now. And we just need to reorganize and focus our energies on things that actually matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he has to lose. We have to engage in an election that'll be fundamentally unfair and the vote will be suppressed and somehow still succeed because there's no checks and balances that are going to work. There's no norms that are going to protect us. There's no protest that's going to do it. The media fact checking, none of that is going to work because they don't care. You can't shame them. You can't point out their hypocrisy. None of that works anymore. We have to get them out. That is literally the only way to stop the suffering, or at least begin the process of it anyway.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.